So, hi everyone. Welcome to the SMAC April webinar, and we're going to be talking about Content Hub. We have a couple presenters with us. I'm just going to switch screens, but before I get into that, I wanted just to kind of remind you of the committee members. You can reach out to us for any of the following items that we've listed up here or any other questions. There's the email. You can also contact us on LinkedIn. SMAC newsletter. Please sign up even if you've already signed up before. We had a small issue with the form, so that is back up. We are waiting for people to sign up so that you can receive it. So please sign up even if you've signed up before, sign up again to ensure that you get that newsletter. Next webinar, we will announce, we haven't announced it yet, but we will, and that is going to be on Sitecore Send focused presentations only. We have 2 to 3 speaking slots available. Send us your proposal at the email that you see on the screen, please. All right, and now for the speakers, we're going to have Dennis and Ken go first, and they're going to talk about how Content Hub can add value for teams beyond marketing across the organization, and that's going to be followed by Peter. And after that, we are going to do a just quick Q&A session if there's any additional questions from those presentations. And then that's it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I can click it off, and I'm going to pass it over to Dennis and Ken.
I'm Dennis Augustine. I'm a 6-time Sitecore MVP, and today I'm a partner at Conabos as well, Conabos Inc., along with Akshay and Cam and the good folks there, and also joined by another good folk from Conabos, Ken Gray, who's a 2-time Sitecore MVP himself in strategy and a CX architect at Conabos. Now, we're going to be talking about realizing the value of Content Hub beyond the marketing channel. And just in terms of what we'll get into a little bit, it's going to be, I'll have a quick introduction, which I'm doing now. Ken's going to get into a little bit of the backstory. We're going to talk about what we call our 5P approach to kind of tackling value and problems, which I hope that you'll adopt a little bit. So this is going to be about Content Hub, but we're not going to crack open Content Hub today. What we're going to do is really talk about how we get to the solution and to realizing where there's value opportunities for Content Hub. So we're going to tell you a bit of a story about a customer we've dealt with. And with that, I'll hand over to Ken, who will get a little bit into that story while I try to ship to mass the deck.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. And the client that we're going to be talking about, we won't mention names, but they are a national professional association that provides professional certification for financial services sector. They are an educational and professional development organization. For their members, they provide credits. So they share a lot of product knowledge, and their product is knowledge. And so they are the 4 leaders in their industry, knowledge leaders, and provide financial insights and governance to our Canadian government and many large organizations around the globe. So when this client came to us, they had what seemed to be a fairly simple ask. You know, we need to pick a PIM. And a PIM, for those that don't know, is a product information management system that manages, obviously, the information of a product required to market and sell products through various channels. And so they came to us with this question, you know, can you help us select the best PIM for our needs? And to that end, we decided to look at 3 systems: Salsify, InRiver, and Content Hub.
Now, Ken, you've mentioned Content Hub, and I think some of the folks who are paying attention are going to object, as I'm about to, that Content Hub is not a PIM. So we have a number of modules in Content Hub, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen, and you should look it up if you have not seen it before. The modules of Content Hub are aptly demonstrated in one of the Content Hub content crisis decks. It covers DAM, so digital asset management, which is going to help you manage, images and digital files related to your content or to your content. The PCM module, now that is product related, that is product content management, but it's a little bit different than the PIM stuff that you talked about when you mentioned Salsify and InRiver. There's the Sitecore content marketing platform, which is going to help us, strategize around our content, the MRM stuff that addresses a lot of workflow and the web to print, but nowhere have I mentioned PIM. So the customer asks us to evaluate a PIM, but you're looking at Content Hub. How did you get there?
Yeah, great question, Dennis, and I'm glad you called it out. I probably jumped a little ahead, but remember the original question was not what is the best PIM, but what can you help us select the best PIM for our needs? It's subtle, but notice that in that question, they mentioned for our needs. And fortunately, the customer added that bit, but sometimes they don't, or sometimes as strategists, we actually miss it. We immediately look for the platform, the PIM. And so although this customer did mention it, they may know their pain points. They may also know the problems that they're facing, but sometimes they don't ask the right question. Now, this client did, but our job as a strategist is to actually get to the root of the problem to offer the best solution that adds the value and meets the customer's needs. And so to that end, for this client, we looked for value in a different way using, as you mentioned earlier, our 5P approach. Had we started with considering the best PIM platforms, yes, Content Hub might not have made the team. And we might not have arrived at Content Hub as the right solution for this particular customer. The 5Ps, as unfortunately we don't have our slides, but our purpose, problem, people, process, and then the platform. Even though the platform undergirds all of that, we always start with the purpose. What is the problem and the purpose that we're trying? What is the purpose of the organization and what is the problem we're trying to solve? And then who's involved and how does that all come together? So by starting with purpose with this client, we found that they had several. Actually, they had one was to help members prepare and pass certification exams. They also wanted to improve member professional competence. They also wanted to get their financial literacy products into the public space. Over the years in Canada, financial literacy has become a hot topic in teaching it in schools and so on and so forth. So they needed to get their financial literacy products out there. Thought leadership to help shape the profession and respond to changes in the field, not just in Canada, but around the globe. And then product was the original question, looking for a PIM, and their product for this organization was knowledge resources. And then again, while going through our discovery with this client, we discovered that the problems that they wanted their PIM to solve were getting product information out in an efficient way. They were facing a content crisis as far as their knowledge resources went, getting it out there. They needed a single source of truth for their product content and as well as the asset management. They needed a better process for coordinating all of their content, not just for their product, but within the organization, all the way through from product distribution and content, all the way from content creation to content distribution or product distribution. And they were heavily siloed. And so that was the problem the problems that they were trying to face. And obviously, the organization is made up of people and processes. And we discovered again, as we followed that trail of the problem, we discovered that there were other people involved in preparing these knowledge products. And we discovered that they also work to feed into the marketing process of these knowledge assets. And they were also facing the same challenges and same content crisis during the creating of these knowledge resources. this product. Now, content creation, as we looked again deeper and deeper and deeper, we found that content creation was a cross-cutting concern throughout the organization, not just for marketing, but for their sales team, for operations, for HR. And by looking closely at their processes and talking with the people, we discovered that their product information really belonged in an ERP system, which they already had. So we discovered and learned that by talking to them more and more, that it's better to keep it in the ERP. That will be less disruptive to their people and their processes, rather than introducing another system for product management or product information management. We thought, why not just keep it in the ERP and solve the other issues around the product, which had to deal with, as Dennis mentioned earlier, the PCM, product content management.
Absolutely. And Ken, I mean, I think that's one thing that's so very interesting. What you've done here is, first we have to remember what we're talking about in terms of the structure, where first the customer asked us for a PIM. By following the purpose of what they were trying to address, getting information out to getting their knowledge content out to their customers, and then addressing what problem were they being faced with, the ability to do that in an efficient way, and the content crisis with regards to that in the marketing channel. We followed then the people and the process to discover that, hey, there's actually a lot more going on and other folks feeding into that process that had similar cross-cutting concerns and similar problems, which is what Ken had mentioned here. And so
exactly,
back in 2019, Gartner had put out, and this is something I've referred to several times, Gartner started talking about composability and package business capabilities. And package business capabilities are those things that are cross-cutting concerns in your business. And so we started to talk to other departments other than marketing and found that they had some of the same content problems feeding into the knowledge products that marketing was concerned with. And so they had certain packaged business capabilities or problems that needed to address, which Content Hub could also address. And so when we ask ourselves, where is content? And if you look at your organization, certainly it is in the marketing channel, in the websites, the mobile application, the social, and the email channels. But it's also addressed by other organizations with other departments within your organization. So human resources is going to create content for their internal team. Product development is going to be interested in that, have some of those same problems that you have in the marketing channel. Customer support is going to have those same sorts of challenges with regards to brand consistency, maintaining that voice, governance of those things. Sales is going to have some of those same cross-cutting concerns. And so what we want to encourage you then is to remember this. So content in an organization is everywhere. That content management problem that Content Hub so aptly solves, with regards to this organization, it was about getting that holistic view of their product content. And it was not just about the product information management that was part of the question, but rather getting that holistic view. Content Hub addressed that. The DAM tools helped to address some of the kind of brand voice and consistency problems we saw. And things like MRM and the CMP tools were so useful in terms of coordinating all of the activities leading up to the creation of those knowledge products. So you're going to find those sorts of problems outside of marketing. And so we really want to summarize by saying this. First, start with that 5P approach. Whether it's about Content Hub, and this is not just about Content Hub, but really about anything that you do with regards to the composable stack, start off with addressing what the problem is. What is, so rather the purpose is, who are you trying to reach? What kinds of conversations are you hoping to have? What is the problem you're trying to solve in achieving that purpose? Talk about the people and the processes and follow that trail, because you'll find there's a lot of other people involved in these processes who could be helped by Content Hub. The content crisis is everywhere in an organization. Remember that as you're dealing with, you're creating solutions for customers today. And then lastly, consider, again, Content Hub outside of that marketing channel to achieve value. And just really quickly, our last slide where you can get to know a little bit more about us. So let me just go through here, and we did have a deck, I swear, see? This one, I want you to take note of that. Take a screen capture if you can with my 1 minute or so left. Follow this process when you're analyzing problems with customers. And lastly, then in summary, remember our little takeaways here.
Content is everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5 Ps, use them. Use Content Hub to address different different business challenges in terms of those capabilities you need to address. And lastly, if you need to get a hold of us, Ken?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, thank you, Krista and the team there, Allison and the whole SMAC team. Yeah, if you're looking to have a similar analysis done or find out if Content Hub is a fit for your organization, the QR code on the screen there will allow you to get to a form where you can pretty much complete that, and myself, Dennis, or another member of the team here will reach out and get you suited up. So again,
Right.
Thank you, everybody, and sorry we
Thank
missed
you.
our deck, but I'm sure they'll make it available later on.
Yeah, and I hope you got the point there. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to give it over to Peter.
Thanks very much. Fortunately, I can share because mine is very dependent on the deck. Just 1 second. So just to introduce myself, my name is Peter Clisby. I'm a regional Sitecore architect for EMEA at Valtech. I've worked with 8 Sitecore-focused agencies over a long period of time in both contract, perm, and client-side roles. Obviously, treated best when I was a client. So I've been a headless evangelist since around 2018, mainly in JSS, the sort of Sitecore offering in the headless space originally. And then more recently, I've been a student of Sitecore's composable DXP products, including Content Hub, which my talk today is about. I'm based in the UK, and my email is on screen. So getting straight into my talk, part 1 is about no-code solutions for Content Hub media processing. So I won't read out the topics on the screen, but effectively the first part of my talk is how you can replace very sort of tedious, time-consuming tasks that you may have outsourced if you're to a sort of third-party agency to do a lot of the sort of heavy lifting of content work, where you're sort of doing very basic tagging of content if there's a man in an image or a female or whatever that could be. And then almost that first round of content enrichment can be automated, eliminating those third parties. So the marketers who maybe didn't sign up to do that type of tedious work can focus on the second round of content enrichment and perhaps the most valuable. So to get into the sort of AI analysis aspect of Content Hub, one really powerful feature, I think, is you're able to define asset types. Content Hub's really based around an entity model that I'd kind of say is out of the scope of this talk, but ultimately you can have taxonomy members on these entities, asset being an entity in itself, where you can then have sort of conditional members to be shown when reviewing a given entity. So, for example, you may want social media asset. You may have a member that is showing you where that's come from, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, or wherever else. And obviously, you might not want that shown on other asset types. But a really powerful feature is the sort of configuration in asset types of the sort of toggle configuration for the sorry, bear with me. The toggle configuration for certain features. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got toggles for things like the vision service, for the video AI service, and for triggering extract archives. But a particular focus of mine is for the vision service and the video AI service. And my configuration is very much focused on social media assets. So if I look at an example of a social media asset in my DAM instance, you can see the image on the left-hand side, and in the image analysis member in the center of the page, you can see some of the tags that the image analysis has come up with. And that's where, whilst it can do a lot of the heavy lifting, it really should be the first round of content enrichment where, you can see some of these things aren't perfect, whether that's fast food. Perhaps if you've got a health drink, you might not want that tagged with fast food, and the description of a woman wearing the hat. Obviously, that's not a very good description. But what you can see, if on the renditions tab in the left-hand side, you're able to download the JSON for the image analysis. And so what you can also see is kind of confidence levels that the analysis service has come up with of what they think is sort of these tags that they've come up with, the likelihood that they're correct. So obviously things like girl, I could look at the photo as a human and say, I would say almost definitely it's a young girl, but there is a chance it's a young boy with long hair. So I may say there's a sort of 10% chance it's a young boy, but more than likely it's a girl. And you can see on the right-hand side with the confidence level for the girl, it's saying there's a sort of 82 to 83% chance that that's correct. And for me, I would say that's probably about right. Equally, things like the bottle, I would probably go a bit higher than 73%. But those are the obvious things. For me, the bottom two, where you've got summer and beach, that for me is a lot more sort of reading between the lines. I mean, I look at the image and I think that's a summer day, but it could well be in winter in a hot country, or it could just be a very nice day in winter. And then even more so the beach. If I look at the image as a human, I could sort of say, I think 50-50 that's taken on a beach. It might be by a swimming pool, something else, but as a human, I could guess it could be taken on a beach. And you can see on the right hand side here the confidence level of 65%, and how, for me, that's about right. So hopefully, as I say, you can see the manual legwork. If you've got tens of thousands of assets, that you're saving someone all of that tedious work going through that initial round, and in a consistent way. So to look at the next example of a video or a MP4, that's an even more extreme example. If you've got, again, 10,000 videos, each of them 10 minutes each, that's a very long time to watch all of those videos. Very tedious task that can become error prone. Perhaps as I'm watching the first half a day of videos, I'm very attentive, very focused. Latter part of the day, I might lose focus, or different people may be doing different videos. Different people may have a different view of what to tag it with. So really what the sort of media processing is enabling there is first of all heavy lifting, a lot of manual work eliminated, but also in a consistent fashion. So in a similar way to the image before, you can see all of the you can see all of the tags here where we've got posing, we've got a crowd. In the bottom right here, it's saying a crowd of people posing. Various other things that I as a human would pick up, but I'm surprised to see a machine pick that out. Whether that is food, you can see food on the table, wine, a lot of these tags. For me, that's a very good starting point that for the second round of enrichment, as a marketer, I can then review that and refine it. So the third part of the image survey, the third part of the artificial intelligence I want to show is the optical character recognition service. And what that's able to do is actually highlight text within your assets. So you can see on the left-hand side an image that's got some text in the labels of the bottles. And then down the bottom with the highlighted text member, you can see fruitful lemon, fruitful orange, fruitful lime. And I've not picked that up. That is the artificial intelligence picking that out. And so if on the left-hand side, you'll see the rendition section. I can actually download the JSON of the OCR service, And you can see some of the values in there. You've got language of EN, the orientation of the text. You've got the sort of coordinates in the image where the text is, the different lines of text. You can see that lines object where you've got fruitful and then another line of lemon. But for me, that's where it's very useful, because if you, for example, there may be different languages that I don't understand, which there could be text that is upside down or on its side, whatever may make it difficult for me to recognize. And so really that's happened instantaneously, where for me that may take me a very long time, and I may even need to go and speak to someone who knows a different language to identify the different language. Again, a very powerful feature. So moving on to the sort of automated media processing flows, you can see on the left-hand side the image where you're able to configure different file extensions into different categories. So if, for example, the image category, I've got all the file extensions for images, excuse me. I've got all of the video file extensions in a different section. And what that enables me to do is run sort of custom processing flows for those different asset categories. And then as we see on the following page, there's a sort of graphical interface where I can drag and drop my different processing flows. So it also enables you to do sequencing of tasks. So if, for example, you've got dependent steps, or if there's an efficiency to chaining these tasks, it may be that one of my tasks depends on converting the image to a PDF, and then I'm going to do something with that PDF. So in that way, I can chain the tasks and effectively achieve that outcome. And in the same way, if I've got an image that's 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, I may want to reduce that to 360 and 360 by 360, and then use the 360 by 360 version to make my 150 by 150 version. And when you're sort of ingesting thousands of assets, there can be a performance improvement for that type of thing. You can also see on the image of on the left-hand side, you've got target extensions. If I want to convert an image from a JPEG to a PNG, or if I want to resize that image, I saw an article somewhere where a vehicle manufacturer had hundreds of thousands of images and paid someone to do the menial task of making different size versions of it. And there was this huge figure that had cost, where you look at a tool like Content Hub can effectively eliminate that cost. So furthermore, you've got you can crop images around custom focal points, metadata processing configuration, lots of other tasks that come out of the box, and you can create your own tasks too. So again, to look at the sort of out of the box tasks, you can see a list on the left hand side. If I'm going as if to create a new task, lots of different out of the box things, whether I want to create a sort of composite asset, which is a zip file as an output, if I want to convert image types like we've seen in the previous slide. Similarly with videos, same as we've seen on the previous slide, but for videos, I may want to change the PDF resolution. That's a requirement I've seen in a PIM solution, where the references to the PDFs, there was a requirement at the beginning of the project many years ago, where they didn't want to import to Sitecore Commerce the PDFs if they were above a certain resolution. And then a bug was raised saying, oh, the PDFs aren't being imported. A developer had to look into it at length, then feedback that actually it was because of the resolution being too high. And then someone had to go and manually change all of the resolutions, where if you've got that rule in place and that business requirement, you can simply put a processing flow that will always ensure the PDFs are of a certain resolution. So you're also able to, like I've said before, extract metadata, things like the OCR service, and then many custom tasks. So to move into part two of the Content Hub media processing flows, you can see the topics on the screen. Again, I won't read them out. But the three concepts I'm going to look at are triggers, actions, and scripts. So Triggers, as you would imagine, you can see some of the out of the box triggers here. As you can imagine, they would trigger something on a condition. And so on the left hand side here, you can see how some of them can trigger on entity creation if you're creating something, if you're modifying it, or whether you're deleting it. And then on top of that, you can add conditions. As you can see on the second image, I've got where it's got a campaign assigned, and where that campaign is the Christmas campaign. And so in which case, anything else that's not part of that campaign will just be ignored and not triggered. So again, looking at the kind of fields you can fill out, this is the another example of a trigger for creating linked assets. But again, just to show the interface, I'll skip quickly over that, conscious of time. And this is another example of the triggers. You can use sort of and, or, and chain those statements to create quite complex business logic. But again, skimming over it, conscious of time. And again, you can assign actions to these triggers. So effectively, a trigger triggers an action, and then an action can be a variety of things. So again, looking at our triggers, but the actions, you can see in the type, there's various different types. You've got action script, print entity generation, and as we'll see on the following slide, the whole variety you can have. So it could be an API call, it could be posting to an Azure service bus, various different things. But my focus is on scripts, and this part of the second part of the talk is really the sort of low code elements that enable development tasks while eliminating large parts of the the software development lifecycle. So obviously in another sort of traditional solution, you may have to, a developer may need to have a release pipeline that he's built, a whole release process developed locally and all of that type of thing. And all of that with this low code solution is eliminated, and the developers can focus on the business value and the exciting things. So you can see an example here. I know it's a bit codey for a marketing audience, but you can see here that the purpose of this script here is to generate public links if you're referencing in your sort of content entity. So Dennis and Ken spoke earlier about sort of PCM, product content management, CMP, content marketing platform, where you can have content entities you're pushing to downstream systems, or even exposing that as content as a service to a headless application. In that type of scenario, you wouldn't want, if you were referencing an asset or an image, for example, you'd want to make sure there was a public link for it. Otherwise, when you pushed it down to the downstream system, someone may need to come back and say, look, the image link isn't valid. Then that needs to go back. Someone needs to create the public link, and that whole cycle can be eliminated by this type of automation. So again, another example of a custom script. This one is effectively, if you look at line 10, it's splitting the file name by the underscore. And if you've named your product in such a way where the product reference number is the first part before the underscore, this script will then go and find that product in PCM, as the guys earlier spoke about, and update that product to reference this asset. And again, that eliminates a whole part of the content enrichment process where previously you'd upload your assets and maybe need to go and find the product that relates to manually, link it to the asset, a very time-consuming process, eliminated with a simple script. So they are the two, low code, no code. There is a third sort of scenario, which is perhaps called low to code. And I just wanted to highlight that if you have got a development team and you've got really complex requirements, there are SDKs available that can, you can write sort of complete middleware solutions using these SDKs. And so there are options available on that front. And you can see the same syntax is used for the queries in the internal scripts as the external SDKs. So it's very developer friendly in that regard. And then one final note I wanted to add was sort of extensibility points. Once upon a time, I worked on a artificial intelligence Azure Cognitive Services implementation where a taps manufacturer wanted to enable workmen to upload images of their taps, and it would identify the product that was that tap to sell them. So an extension of Content Hub, and I think this would be very complex, it's not necessarily out of the box, but you could have your own artificial intelligence model, sending the image off to that sort of artificial intelligence analysis, and then potentially come back and identify the product in which case you don't need to have this naming convention for the files. You could upload the product and it automatically finds the product that is associated with that. But that one for sure is phase 2. So on that note, that is everything from me. So thanks very much for your time, and I'll hand back over.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for presenting. You did great today. Dennis and Ken, we will share that presentation, whether we do it through the newsletter or we can do it through the community channel, or the community forum, but we will share that presentation. Peter, I did see one question come through from Dennis in the chat, and he's asking, are there use cases for this kind of automated tagging that you would caution against from a risk perspective, or for which you'd recommend additional human input or oversight?
Yes, for sure. And I mean, my opinion is that I would use it as the first round of content enrichment. I mean, you could see there a couple of the images that I showed. It said "woman with a hat" as the description, for example. So for starters, I would very much make it the first round that needs to be reviewed. But for me as a marketer, if I've saved myself sort of 1,000 hours and I just need to spend the extra 50 hours reviewing it, it's still saved a lot of time. But I mean, I don't know what the official answer is, but that's my opinion. I would say it should be the first round of content enrichment rather than an unsupervised sort of throwing tags out there without review. And then I'd also say there's risks from a performance perspective. Obviously, it's very powerful, but with that power, the responsibility is that you can cause performance issues if the things that you're doing are very resource intensive.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. And with that, guys, we didn't see any other questions come through, so we will give you guys back 18 minutes of your day. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.